Okay, welcome back to Dallas Discount Reef Season 1, Episode 2. And today we're going to talk about alkalinity. So, recap Episode 1, find our tank's baseline. That's going to be consistent salinity and consistent alkalinity. So, when we're talking about that, salinity is like pretty simple. You can have a hydrometer, which is the clear thing you stick in the tank, and it has the gauge that goes up and down. You have the refractometer, which you put the water on, you look through it, and it refracts light, and the amount of salt in the water changes the way the light refracts, and that shows you your reading. Then you also have the digital refractometer, which is the same thing, but you just push the water, or put the water, the Milwaukee is the one I'm referring to. I believe it's the 805. You just put it in, hit the button, it tells you, and then the ice cap also makes a handheld salinity meter, and there's a couple other cheaper instruments that I found, but salinity is one of those things to where have a backup. So like you have a digital meter, have a refractometer. If you have a refractometer, have a hydrometer, and then also get the calibration fluids for those. So, and by calibration fluid, what I mean is there's a simple solution that's just pure RODI water, 0 parts per million, and that's going to calibrate your zero range. And then you have a 1.025 usually is the salinity level that it's at. And again, this is a laboratory completely accurate that you put on there, and you calibrate your meter according to that. So we'll do a future episode, I'm sure, at some point about how to do that. But for today, just make sure you have a reliable calibrated tool to check salinity that you know is correct. And if you're not sure, there's like I said, easy ways to find out. So if we need to, we'll definitely dig into that in the future. But for right now, what I want to do today in this limited amount of time is show you the alkalinity test. And with that, I mean the test that I call the best alkalinity test, and that's the Salifert, Salifert. I will pull up the little sheet right here. So this is the sheet that comes in the box, and you can see it. It's Salifert Profile Test, and it's alkalinity, carbonate hardness. So it has a nice little picture diagram of what you're supposed to do, but I'm going to make this real easy for you. Bada boom. 4 milliliters of water. You have one clean vial, which is now right side up. Put it in there. And I like to call this like 4 drops, 1 ml. This is the beauty of it. So there's a lot of other tests you can buy out there. I've used, this is my favorite. And one of the reasons, and the thing that we're going to look at when we're talking about these type of things, is the fact that for certain tests, certain things are easier if it's easier visually for you to tell when you're at the right test limit in terms of how much reagent you're putting into your sample, so you get the right readout. That's why the digital stuff has become so popular. I have actually not used the Hannah alkalinity test kit. I know a lot of people that do, and they've been very happy. However, for the amount of alkalinity testing that we do, which is daily, it becomes kind of cost prohibitive. Long-term, 2 tanks. I mean, at one point there were several tanks going. So we use this just, again, personally, it's easier for me to do this than it is to do the Hannah. So I'll get one at some point. We'll run through it. I'm sure I'll really, really like it. But for now, I'm just going to show you this way. The nice thing is the Hannah's $50 plus the reagents, 40, 50 cents a piece. This is $13, I think, for 50 of the high-res test. So there's a substantial, cost savings there as well. So getting back to the test, it's 4 ml of water, and then you take 4 drops. That's it. Now when you do it, you want to turn the bottle upside down or nearly upside down. That way you get a uniform drop out of each one. Then you just swirl it like that, and you'll see a nice like turquoise to green color depending upon what your alkalinity is. And then you take your syringe and your reagent, which is the large bottle. And for these test kits too, you'll see, if there's more than 2 parts, like this is reagent, your additive one and then your reagent, they will be numbered, so you'll know what order to do them even if you're not looking at the directions. Anyway, getting back to this. So you go in, I just sucked out 1 ml, and I don't know if you can see it very well in there, but you want the plunger right at that line. So you're going to take that. And again, we're not counting drops. It's not an API test, because that's the weird part about that is like, well, are the drops uniform? And then one of the things with the API was the first test because I used it turns from like blue to purple or purple to blue. I'm like, how the hell do I tell the difference? You got to be kidding me. It's blue to purple. It's close. So this and the Tropic Marine were my two favorites for the liquid test, because all you have to do is the color test is quite poignant. The Tropic Marine is green to orange, I believe, and this one's like green or blue to pink. So it's a lot easier. And then people go, well, how do I know exactly what color that is? Do a couple tests in a row, and then you kind of say, like for me, I go, okay, when it looks like really pink, and a lot of people, how do you know? Sometimes if, depending upon the lighting where you're at, it's a great idea. You can take this little piece of paper that has the numbers or read off on there, but you can put it underneath. So no matter what light you see, you're seeing it reflected off a white piece of paper. So you can tell exactly what that color is like you see in the picture. Okay. So again, we're just going to slowly drip this in here. And I've done this a lot. So I've got my kind of handshake down so it stays swirling. You can see, but you slowly drop it in there. You can put it in faster if you want. Again, that's the nice thing about reef keeping. There you go. It's like kind of pink, right? I like saying, you kind of pick a color where I'm like, I definitely know it's pink. So I'll tap it, put one more in there. Oh, boom. Okay, that's what we're looking for right there, baby. Okay, so even like you can tell, but when you put the piece of paper under it, bada bing, pink. Okay, so now that we've got that, the nice thing is you set that to the side. We don't have to count drops, didn't know any of that. Now we look at the syringe, and then you put it to where your 0.1 is on top and your 1.0 is on the bottom, and then you read down. So for example, with this test, I know it's probably kind of hard to see, but we're at 0.4, and then we have our line that's halfway between 0.4 and 0.5, and we are one line below that. So we call that 0.46. So you just read down from the top. That's it. No counting drops. It's great. Then you take your chart, and there's a beautiful little chart in here. And I'll kind of put it a little closer so that you can see, but it's got all of it's trying to focus on me and it. There you go. That's better. But you can see it has your 0.0 whatever reading and then a alkalinity number on the side. So for us, we're looking at 0.46, which is 8.3. And the tank's been sitting 8.3 to 8.6. So I know that tank's staying at our baseline. So again, you're going to go, alkalinity, 8.3, right? And I tell most people, like, what do you mean? You try to keep it within a 1-point range, right? So our goal is to keep it at 8.0 to 9.0. Excuse me. Sometimes that's a little bit harder to do, depending upon certain things that happen. You're out of town for a week. It's not a big deal. Again, we're just trying to keep it in that range. That's going to be your baseline. So your baseline alkalinity, and then your baseline salinity, which again, salinity, you want to keep constant, up or down, 0.001 is fine. And for range, if you're talking a reef tank, you want to be running a minimum of 1.026 and a maximum of 1.8. Find a number in between. Just try to keep it there, and you'll be in good shape. So that's our alkalinity test. And the main thing with this is just get used to doing it. You can get them on Amazon, Bulk Reef Supply. Just about every fish store I've ever been to has either the Tropic Marine or the Salifert test kit. I've become a huge fan, and as you can tell, I've done it several times, but I can knock it out in about 30 seconds. Like, it's super quick. So going back to one of the questions that I've been asked many times, if I want to have a reef tank, 70 to 100 gallons, how long will it take me every day to maintain that tank? I would say about 10 minutes once you get a system down. 10 minutes a day. It's not bad. An hour a week. So what I would encourage you today is just go ahead, start doing your alkalinity test kit. Take what we learned from lesson 1, put that into, episode 2, and just practice doing your alkalinity test and doing your salinity test. And the one of the reasons you're doing it the same way is you should be able to get the same number every time. So, if you do it once and you do it one day and it's 8.6, the next day it's 10. do another one. See where it's at. If it's 8.6, okay. If it's 10, okay. If it's 9, that means probably your 8.6 was correct, or your 9's correct. Do another one. That's the nice thing about these. It's quick, it's simple, it's easy. But the whole idea is do a couple so you get used to doing it to where it becomes second nature. Because the number one thing, and I don't even mind doing tests because I'm like, oh, I can visually see into the tank, right? When you sit down and you're trying to do 5 tests at a time or 7 tests, dude, it sucks. It's crazy. You got all these files and it's a pain in the butt. So we're going to focus on alkalinity, salinity, 2 super easy ones, and then we're going to jump into some other stuff. But again, for today, thanks for tuning in, Dave. And Salifert Alkalinity Test, 4 ml, 4 drops. Reagent, check your chart, log it. And then we will do another episode on how to change it. For now, we're just going to stick with water changes because there's nothing in the tank. And we're going to start stocking it up soon. So that's why I wanted to start this now so that you, Dave, can see your progression and where we're at. So that's why I was like, well, hold off, get the alkalinity and stuff done, and then we know what our baseline is. So when we start putting coral and fish and things in the tank, we can tell what difference that's making. Perfect example before we wrap this up is somebody saw a video and guys like, oh, I got my pH up, went from 8.1 to 8.3. That's great if you can manage the fact that your corals are going to be consuming substantially more alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, etc. while you're doing that. So one of the things we're going to focus on is finding a baseline for your tank, and then you can set that way when you make adjustments, you know what needs to be done to keep your tank in balance. And we'll talk about balance again. We're talking about ionic balance, but that's it for today. We're past the 10-minute mark. Thanks for joining in. Smash that like and subscribe button. More to come.